At 14:58 ship time, 8 vessels dropped out of gravitational silence 900,000 kilometers above the Karathi fleet. The fleet had been there for 9 minutes, watching, waiting. 12 weapon systems per ship fired as one. Gravity shears focused waves that bent space itself, tore through the Karathi formation. In 4 seconds, 96 ships were gone. Not damaged, not disabled, gone. Admiral Thalia Voss's voice came through on an open channel, one line, no preamble. You measured us by your own ambition. We measured ourselves by what we were willing to sacrifice. Behind her voice, a faint ticking, a mechanical second hand, steady and old. The Karathi flagship's command deck went silent. High Warlord Korvethan stared at the display. He had no doctrine for this, no precedent. He had never lost before. I wish I could tell you the Empire had seen it coming. They hadn't. Stay close. 72 hours earlier, the onyx spire hung above the Karathi homeworld, a black monument of obsidian and polished bone, 40 meters of war chamber at its heart. The holographic display showed the Galactic Council's territory 12,000 light-years, most of it marked in Karathi red. High Warlord Korvethan sat at the center, his scarred left eye catching the blue glow of the Sol system, a small yellow dot unremarkable. The humans, he said, have 5 days to accept our terms. Captain Vexar Thal laughed. Chemical propulsion, Warlord. My grandmother's shuttle had gravitic drives. They're a joke. Captain Dracon Ver, who commanded the siege cruisers, leaned forward. 12 cruisers, Warlord. I could ash their homeworld in 9 hours. Population? What, 12 billion? They'd be dust before dinner. Captain Sorel Kale, ship-to-ship specialist, added, their fleet is solar system junk. I've seen their registry. Old hulls, outdated reactors, nothing we haven't crushed 100 times. Vethan let the mockery settle. He had conquered 71 worlds in 132 years. He had never lost a major engagement. He raised his hand. 43 capital ships, 1,200 support vessels, 900,000 ground troops. The humans will accept. They always do. Only Captain Terran Voss, the logistics officer, the one whose great-grandmother had been a diplomat, said nothing. He stared at the Sol system on the display. Something itched at the back of his throat. He swallowed it. Vethan turned to the communications officer. Transmit the terms. Open channel. Let them hear what we offer. The recording went out across 800 light-years. A Valith merchant vessel, neutral and ancient, caught the transmission. The Valith had been watching the Karathi for 900 years. They forwarded the message to Earth without comment. On Meridian Station, hidden behind Jupiter's mass shadow, Admiral Thalia Voss watched the recording 3 times. She was 59, gray at the temples, with a face that didn't move much. Her thumb pressed against the cracked crystal of her grandmother's silver chronometer, a pocket watch that had been counting for 140 years without stopping. She had never reset it. The second hand ticked against the silence of her small war room. The coffee machine in the corner had been broken for 6 months. Lieutenant Commander Sora Chen stood beside her. 72 hours to the Oort cloud edge, ma'am. 84 to Jupiter orbital range. Voss did not answer. She replayed the recording again, the laughter, the dismissals, the easy certainty. They have 1,200 ships, Chen said. We have 8, Voss said. She turned from the display. Wake the Shepherd fleet. Full deployment. I want Captain Vance on the line in 4 minutes. Ensign Tariq Patel, the youngest in the room, still wearing his academy ring, hesitated. Ma'am, that protocol has been dormant for 41 years. We've never activated it. Voss looked at him. Her thumb stopped on the chronometer's crystal. It's never been needed, she said. Now it is. Across the Oort cloud, 1.4 trillion kilometers from the sun, 8 vessels began to power up inside frozen planetoids. Each was 2.4 kilometers long, hulls coated in sensor-absorbent material that drank light. Their drive signatures mimicked small black holes, nothing the Karathi had ever catalogued. Their primary weapon, the gravity shear, could tear a dreadnought in half from 900,000 kilometers. Captain Elias Vance, 48 years old, hadn't seen Earth's surface in 9 years. He kept a photograph of his daughter in the armrest of his command chair. He keyed the fleet comms. All ships? Confirm readiness. One by one, the confirmations came back in his quarters. Chief Warrant Officer Marcus Webb, the engineer who had built the gravity shear prototype with his own hands, counted 4 gray hairs in his reflection. He had been on the project since day one. He knew the numbers. 11,400 workers had built these ships. 1,800 had died in construction. Accidents, vacuum exposure, old age. Their families had been told classified industrial accidents. Webb had signed the same NDA 30 years ago. He had never told anyone what he really built. Now the engines hummed. The hulls shed their ice covers. The Shepherd fleet was awake. Voss waited. She had the Karathi fleet's approach trajectory on her tactical display. They would enter the Sol system through the Kale Corridor, a debris field beyond Neptune. She had calculated this moment for 41 years, every possible route, every reaction, every contingency. She had run the numbers herself, in the dark, by the light of her chronometer's phosphorescent dial. They're moving, Chen said. Scout element first. 32 ships. Voss nodded. She had 31 old model human ships, the ones the Karathi had seen in their outdated intelligence reports, positioned in a defensive line around Jupiter. Obsolete hulls, decades-old reactors. They were bait. She did not say that aloud. She had a list on her console, the names of the crews on those 31 ships. She had not looked at it since the battle began. She would not look at it until it was over. Tell Vance to hold position, she said. We wait until 90% of their fleet is inside the kill zone. 87% now, Chen said. Voss waited 18 seconds longer. The chronometer ticked. On the Karathi flagship, Captain Vexarthal's scout element entered the kill zone. He broadcast the standard terms. You will stand aside. If you comply, you will be catalogued as a low-priority population. Resistance will result in your complete destruction. You have 5 of your minutes. The human ships did not reply. They opened fire. Thal laughed. Obsolete junk. His ships returned fire. 27 of the 31 human vessels were destroyed in the first 11 minutes. The remaining 4 withdrew toward Earth. Thal reported to Vethin, engagement complete. Enemy resistance neutralized. We are advancing. Vethin gave the order. The entire 1,200-ship fleet moved forward through the debris field of the destroyed human ships. On Meridian Station, Voss watched the tactical display. The Karathi fleet was committed. She keyed her comm to Vance. Now, the Shepherd fleet had been waiting in gravitational silence for 9 minutes, hanging 900,000 kilometers above the Karathi fleet. Their hulls absorbed all light. Their drives were cold. Their crews breathed slow. Vance's voice came over the fleet net. All ships, weapons free. The gravity shears fired. 12 per ship, 96 beams of focused gravitational distortion. In 4 seconds, 96 Karathi ships, including Captain Vexarthal's scout cruiser, were torn apart. The beams did not explode. They folded space until the ships ceased to exist. The Karathi formation broke into chaos. Voss transmitted one line on the open channel. The chronometer's ticking was the only other sound. The command deck of the Karathi flagship had gone silent. The holographic display showed 96 red icons vanish. Captain Draconver's siege cruisers were next, torn apart by weapons he could not identify. Captain Sorel Kale watched his own command disintegrate around him. Captain Terran Voss, the doubter, ordered his ship to drop shields and broadcast surrender. He had been waiting for this moment longer than he knew. High Warlord Kor Vethin stared at the human vessels hanging above him. He had no doctrine, no precedent. No word in the Karathi lexicon for an enemy that chose to be underestimated. He opened his mouth to speak. The chronometer's ticking filled the silence. He closed it. The silence held. On the flagship's command deck, a tactical officer's voice cracked through the static. Warlord, we are losing formation. The weapons are unidentified. Ships are ceasing to exist. Vethin's scarred eye twitched. He had ordered 1,000 battles. He had never needed to ask for a damage report. Now he heard himself say, how many? 96 confirmed destroyed. 83 more reporting structural failure. The human vessels are not moving. Not moving. They had fired once and stopped. They were waiting. Vethin stared at the tactical display. The 8 human ships hung above his fleet like a blade not yet dropped. He had no plan for this. His doctrine had no page for an enemy that chose to be underestimated. He opened his mouth again. This time he said, all ships, fall back to Formation Delta. Prepare countermeasures. But his captains were not answering. Draconver's siege cruisers were gone. Their icons had vanished from the display. Sorel Kale's ship was listed as maneuvering erratic. Terran Voss had already broadcast surrender. Vethan's flagship took a grazing hit from a stray debris fragment, not from a weapon, just the shockwave of a nearby cruiser folding into itself. The deck shuddered. The bioluminescent ridges along his jaw pulsed a deep, sickly orange. On the human side, Admiral Voss watched the Karathi formation fracture. She did not smile. Her thumb rested on the chronometer's crystal. The second hand ticked. "They're trying to regroup," Chen said. "I see them." Voss paused. "Tell Vance to hold fire. Let them see we're not going to chase." "You want them to retreat?" "I want them to understand." Chen didn't ask what that meant. She keyed the comm on the Shepherd Fleet's lead vessel. Captain Vance received the order. He had his finger on the firing trigger. He took it off. He looked at his daughter's photograph, then back at the tactical display. The Karathi were pulling back, slowly, clumsily, like a wounded animal that didn't know where the wound was. "They're scared," his tactical officer said. "No," Vance said. "They're confused. There's a difference." He watched the Karathi ships drift away from the kill zone. He counted the seconds. The chronometer's ticking was not on his bridge, but he felt it anyway. On the Karathi flagship, the retreat order had been given, but half the fleet did not hear it. Their comms were down. Their captains were dead. The survivors moved without coordination, scattering into the debris field of their own fallen ships. Vethan gripped the armrest of his command chair. His claws left grooves in the obsidian. He turned to his logistics officer, the one who had been silent through the mockery. Terran Voss surrendered. "Yes, Warlord." Did he say why? "No, Warlord." Vethan's jaw tightened. The bioluminescence dimmed. He had conquered 71 worlds, but that number felt hollow now. He looked at the human ships again. They had not moved. They had not fired again. They were waiting for something. He did not know what. On Meridian Station, Voss allowed herself a slow breath. She pulled the chronometer from her pocket and held it up to the light. The crystal was still cracked. The second hand still moved. "Ma'am," Chen said, "the Karathi are in full withdrawal. We have sensor data on their remaining fleet, approximately 800 ships still operational." Voss nodded. "And our losses?" Chen's voice dropped. 27 of the old ships destroyed, 4 surviving, 3,100 crew accounted for. "We have the list." Voss did not look at it. She had memorized the names years ago, every one of them. She knew that the 31 ships were crewed by 30,100 souls. She had personally approved the mission profiles. She had written the letter of condolence for every family in her head 1,000 times. She had not sent those letters yet. "Get me the Galactic Council," she said. "Open channel. I want Elder Sirach Vel specifically." Chen hesitated. "Ma'am, the Council doesn't have real-time comms with us. They're 2.3 light-years away. Our message will take. Send it now. He'll receive it in 2.5 years, but I want the record to start." She paused. "And send a separate transmission to the Valeth merchant vessel. They'll know what to do with it." The chronometer ticked. Voss set it on the console, face up, where she could see it. In the Oort cloud, Chief Warrant Officer Webb ran his hand along the gravity shear housing. The weapon had performed beyond expectations. He had designed it to tear through heavy armor. He had not expected it to tear through an empire's confidence. He counted his gray hairs, 4, and decided he would stop counting. On the Shepherd Fleet, Ensign Patel sat at his communications station, staring at the after-action data. He had been part of the activation. He had watched 96 enemy ships disappear from his screen. He had not fired a shot. He had only relayed orders. But he felt something shift in his chest. Not pride, not fear. Something quieter. He keyed his comm to his father's old cargo ship address. He had not spoken to his father in 3 years. He did not know if the message would ever arrive. He sent it anyway. "We are still here." Back on the Karathi flagship, Vethan's tactical officer reported, "Warlord, we have lost contact with 4 additional battle groups. The withdrawal is not orderly. Many ships are not responding to hails." Vethan forced himself to think. He had read the intelligence file on humans, 83 pages, written 40 years ago. He had skimmed the military section, 4 pages. He remembered a phrase, "No significant threat." He had believed it. Now he looked at the display. The human ships were still there, still not moving. "Still waiting," he said. "What do they want?" No one answered. On the observation post 2.3 light-years away, Elder Sirach Vel received the transmission from the Valeth merchant vessel. He set down his recording crystal and watched the data scroll across his screen. He had lived for 2,400 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had never seen a battle where the winner did not give chase. He wrote the first line of his report: "The humans have been hiding a fleet for 41 years. They did not build it to win a war. They built it to end the concept of losing." He paused, then added a second line: "I do not know if that is wisdom or something else." He transmitted the report to the Galactic Council emergency channel. The message would take months to reach them, but he knew the conversation had already started. On Meridian Station, Voss picked up the chronometer. She turned it over in her palm. The back was engraved with her grandmother's initials, EV. The watch had survived 140 years of family history. It had survived the evacuation of Earth's first colony. It had survived her mother's death and her own enlistment. It had survived everything. It would survive this too. She looked at Chen. "How long until the council receives our transmission? 2 years, 5 months, and some days, ma'am?" "Good. That gives us time," Chen frowned. "Time for what?" Voss put the chronometer back in her pocket. "Time to show them what patience looks like." She turned to the tactical display. The karate fleet was gone, scattered, broken, retreating toward the outer system. The Shepherd fleet held position. The 8 ships had fired once. They had not needed to fire again. Voss keyed a transmission to Vance. "Hold the line. Do not pursue." "Let them tell the story," Vance replied. "And if they come back?" Voss looked at the chronometer. The second hand kept moving. "Then we'll show them the rest." The connection ended. The war room fell silent. The coffee machine gurgled, still broken, still useless. Voss sat down. She did not check the list of names. She would later. Not now. Now she watched the display, watched the Karathi ships become points of light, then nothing. She waited. She had been waiting for 41 years. A few more hours didn't matter. On the Karathi flagship, Vithan ordered a full retreat to the outer system. His voice was steady, but his hands were not. He had not lost a battle in 132 years. He had never been forced to retreat. He did not know the protocol for retreat. He asked his tactical officer, "What do we tell the homeworld?" The officer did not answer. Vethan looked at the display where the human ships had been. They had not moved. They were still there, waiting. He understood nothing. The chronometer's ticking long ago had already stopped for Vethan, but he did not know that. The silence on his bridge was the loudest thing he had ever heard. Partition 2 ended with that silence, but the galaxy was just beginning to listen. The signal came from the Shepherd fleet itself, a tight beam transmission aimed directly at the Valith observation post. No preamble, no encryption, just a single data packet containing one video file and a timestamp. Elder Serac Vel's four-fingered hand hovered over the playback control. He had watched empires burn. He had never received a message from a victor who chose not to speak. He opened the file. Admiral Voss's face appeared. Gray hair, still face, the chronometer visible in her hand. She said one sentence. "We have not shown everything. We want the council to know that." The video ended. Vel sat in silence. He understood the implication. The humans had more. The 8 ships were only the beginning. He updated his report. He added a single word to the file. Incomplete. On Meridian Station, Voss put the chronometer back in her pocket. She had not told Vance she was sending that message. She had not told anyone. The Shepherd fleet's true capability was still hidden. The gravity shears were not their final weapon. She had built a second system into each hull, one she had never tested. She hoped she would never need it. She looked at the tactical display. The Karathi fleet had fully withdrawn from Sol space. Their drive signatures were fading into the Oort cloud. They were heading home. "Chen," she said, "what's the status of the surviving old ships?" 4 are operational. We're bringing them to Meridian for repairs. "The crews!" Chen paused. "The crews are requesting to be reassigned to Shepherd fleet." Voss nodded. She had expected that. Deny it? They've done enough. They get shore leave and a transfer to Earth defense. That's not what they want, ma'am. I know. But they deserve to see their families. Tell them I said so. Chen relayed the order. Voss turned back to the display. The 8 Shepherd ships held formation above the galactic plane, watching the empty space where the Karathi had been. They were still waiting. Waiting for something else. On the Karathi flagship, Vithan had not slept. His jaw ridges had dimmed to a sickly gray. The retreat had taken hours, and now they were in open space, moving at maximum speed away from Sol. His fleet was a shambles, less than half operational, the rest damaged or destroyed. He had sent an emergency transmission to the homeworld. Humans are not as assessed. Request reinforcement. He did not mention the 96 lost ships. He did not mention the surrender of Terran Voss. He did not mention that he had no tactical answer for a weapon that folded space. His tactical officer approached. Warlord, we have detected a second human signal. It originated from their fleet, directed toward the Valith observation post. Valith, the neutral observers. Yes, Warlord. The Valith have been watching us for centuries. They have never interfered. Vethan's scarred eye narrowed. What did the humans send them? We cannot decrypt it. The signal was narrow beam and encrypted above our capabilities. Vethan felt something cold settle in his chest. He had assumed the humans had used their only trick. Now he was not sure. He said, maintain course. I will speak to the Council of Warlords. He did not know that the Council of Warlords had already received his emergency transmission and that they were already arguing about what to do. On the galactic capital world, the Council of Warlords sat in a semicircle of black stone. 12 Karathi warlords, each scarred from their own conquests. They had ruled the Empire for centuries. They had never convened an emergency session without a battle to fight. Warlord Gar Vexix, the oldest, leaned forward. Vithan's report is incomplete. He says the humans have a new weapon. He does not describe it. He does not tell us how many ships they have. He says 8, another warlord said. 8 ships destroyed 96 of ours? Impossible. Believe it or not, the numbers are on the display. We have verified his fleet's losses. Gar Vex's jaw ridges flickered with anger. Then we send a larger force. 2,000 ships. We crush them before they can hide again. A younger warlord spoke, and if the humans have more than 8, what if they have 100? 1,000? Impossible. Our intelligence said. Our intelligence was 40 years old. We were arrogant. The chamber fell silent. No Karathi had ever called the Empire arrogant in open session. But the younger warlord's voice had carried weight. Gar Vex raised a clawed hand. We will not retreat. We will not show weakness. We will send a second fleet, reinforced, prepared for an unknown weapon. Vethan will remain in command, but he will answer for his failure. The vote was unanimous. The second fleet began assembly within the hour. On Meridian Station, Ensign Patel intercepted the Karathi emergency transmission. He did not understand the language fully, but the automated translation system flagged it. Reinforcement request. Fleet composition, 2,000 ships. Estimated arrival, 47 standard days. Patel's heart stopped. He ran the data to Voss's console. Voss read it, then set it aside. Her thumb found the chronometer. She counted seconds. 47 days, Chen said. We have 8 ships. Even with the gravity shears, we cannot hold against 2,000. We don't need to hold, Voss said. We need to demonstrate. Demonstrate what? Voss did not answer. She keyed a transmission to Vance. Prepare the Shepherd fleet for secondary protocol. Full system activation. I want the gravity shears offline and the secondary weapons online. Vance's voice came back tight with disbelief. Ma'am, we've never tested the secondary system. We don't know what it does. I know what it does, Captain. I designed the protocol. Follow the order. Vance paused. Then, confirmed. Voss closed the channel. She looked at Chen. In 47 days, we will show them the rest. But first I need to speak to the Valith again. She sent another transmission, this one longer, explaining the secondary system. She did not tell Chen what it was. She waited for the Valith's reply. It came within hours. We will relay your message to the Council. But we caution you, the Karathi have never retreated twice. They will not stop. Voss replied, neither will we. On the Shepherd fleet, Vance ordered his crew to begin the secondary system activation. The process took hours, unsealing dampeners, rerouting power, calibrating the energy arrays. Webb worked alongside his team, his hands steady despite the tension. He knew what the secondary system was. He had built it with his own hands. He had never expected to use it. Patel, watching the data feeds, noticed something odd. The secondary system's energy signature was not weapon-like. It was something else, something that looked like a communication array, but with power output far beyond any normal transmission. Sir, Patel said to Vance, what is this system? It doesn't match any known weapon profile. Vance glanced at him. It's not a weapon, Ensign, it's a message. A message to whom? Vance turned back to the console. To anyone who's listening. Patel did not understand, but he stopped asking. The chronometer's ticking in his mind had become a constant. He thought he could hear it even now. On the Karathi homeworld, the Second Fleet assembled. 2,000 ships, the largest armada in Karathi history. The warlords were determined to crush the humans and restore their empire's reputation. Vithan received the news with mixed emotions. He was grateful for reinforcements, but he also knew that if he failed again, he would be executed. He sat in his private quarters, staring at the holographic image of the human fleet. 8 ships, small, unremarkable, barely visible against the stars. He had mocked them. Now they haunted him. His comm buzzed. It was Terran Voss, the logistician, who had surrendered. He had been captured and was being held in the brig. He had requested to speak to Vethan. Vethan hesitated, then accepted the transmission. Terran's face appeared on the screen, resigned calm. "Warlord," Terran said, "I will not ask for mercy, but I will ask you to listen." Listen to what? The humans have been preparing for this for 41 years. They did not build the Shepherd fleet to fight the Karathi. They built it to send a message to the entire galaxy. What message? Terran paused. That some things cannot be conquered. That patience is a weapon you do not understand. I surrendered because I saw what you still refuse to see. Vithan said nothing. Terran continued, "Your doctrine tells you to attack, to destroy, to dominate. But the humans have no interest in your empire. They only want you to stop. They will not chase you. They will not conquer your worlds. They will simply wait, and if you attack again, they will show you what they truly have." Vithan's claws tightened on the armrest. "You are a traitor. You surrendered to the enemy. I am a Karathi who did not want to die for a doctrine that was wrong." Terran's voice was steady. "I have seen the humans' data. The secondary system is not a weapon. It is an archive. They have recorded every event in this galaxy for the past 2,000 years. The Velith have been feeding them data. They know everything." Vithan went still. Everything. Every battle. Every treaty. Every lie the Empire has told. They have been waiting for the right moment to release it to the Council. And when they do, Terran shook his head. When they do, the Karathi will not be seen as conquerors. We will be seen as barbarians. The transmission ended. Vithan sat in silence. He had no doctrine for this either. On Meridian Station, Voss reviewed the data from the secondary system. It was not a weapon. It was a broadcast. A complete record of every atrocity the Karathi had committed, verified by the Velith over centuries. She had planned to release it to the Galactic Council if the Empire ever attacked Earth again. She looked at the chronometer. The second hand moved. The crystal was still cracked. "Chen," she said, "how long until the Karathi Second Fleet arrives?" 47 days, ma'am." "Good. That's enough time to finish the broadcast. Tell the Velith to prepare the relay network. I want every council member to receive the full archive simultaneously." Chen's eyes widened. "Ma'am, that's not a military victory. That's a political annihilation." Voss allowed a small, tired smile. "That's the point." She pressed her thumb to the chronometer. The second hand kept moving. Some things, she understood, were meant to keep counting. The galaxy was about to learn the final lesson. She poured cold water from the broken coffee machine into a chipped ceramic mug. It had been 6 months since the machine worked, and she had never bothered to fix it. She took a sip, then set the mug down. The chronometer ticked beside it. "Ma'am?" Chen said from the display. "The Velith confirmed the relay network is online. Every council member will receive the broadcast simultaneously. We have 72 seconds until transmission." Voss nodded. She looked at the tactical display. The Karathi Second Fleet was still 47 days out, but that was irrelevant. The broadcast would reach the Council in minutes. The fleet would arrive to find an empire already shattered. She pressed her thumb to the chronometer's cracked crystal. "Send it." The broadcast went out, a compressed data packet containing 2,000 years of Karathi atrocities, verified by Velith observers, time-stamped, categorized, undeniable. It hit every council member's receiver at the same instant. On the council world, in the Great Hall of the Assembly, 2,400 seats went silent. The holographic displays flickered to life, showing the archive in full. Warlords, diplomats, elders, they all saw the same images: burned colonies, mass executions, species driven to extinction. They saw the Karathi's own records, captured by the Velith over centuries. Elder Sarak Vel's voice cut through the silence. He had been given emergency speaking rights. He said only one line. The humans have not declared war. They have declared truth. The assembly did not vote. There was no need. The truth was already before them. On the Karathi homeworld, the Council of Warlords received the broadcast simultaneously. They saw their own history laid bare, not as triumph, but as atrocity. The warlords who had ordered the conquests saw their faces in the records. The Empire's myth collapsed in seconds. Garvex, the oldest, rose from his seat. This is propaganda. The humans fabricated. The evidence continued playing. He stopped speaking. In the brig of Vethan's flagship, Taran Voss watched the broadcast on a smuggled datapad. He had known it was coming. He had seen the humans' patience, their willingness to wait. He set down the pad and waited for the inevitable. Vethan himself saw the broadcast on his command deck. He watched the images of his own conquests, the worlds he had burned, the civilizations he had crushed. His doctrine had told him it was glorious. The truth told him it was something else entirely. He turned to his tactical officer. Order the fleet to stand down. All ships. Halt advance. Warlord. Now, the order went out. The second fleet, still 47 days from Seoul, stopped moving. The Empire's momentum had finally broken. On Meridian Station, Voss watched the confirmation feeds. The Council had gone silent. The Karathi fleet had halted. The broadcast had worked. She did not smile. She did not celebrate. She picked up the chronometer and looked at it. The second hand still moved. The crystal was still cracked. "Ma'am," Chen said, "the Council is requesting a statement from you. They want to hear from the human commander." Voss considered. She keyed the comm, and her face appeared on the Council's displays, gray-haired, tired, unreadable. She said, "We have been waiting for this moment for 41 years. We did not build the Shepherd fleet to destroy an empire. We built it to show the galaxy what patience can do. The Karathi measured us by their ambition. We measured ourselves by what we were willing to sacrifice. I will not give you a speech. I will give you the truth you already have. Now you decide what to do with it." She ended the transmission. The chronometer ticked. On the Council world, the assembly sat in silence for a long moment. Then Elder Surak Vel raised his hand. "I propose a resolution. The Karathi Empire is stripped of its council membership until it answers for every world it has taken. The humans will be granted a permanent seat on the council, with all rights and protections, all in favor." The vote was unanimous. On Vethan's flagship, the warlord watched the council's vote on his display. He did not protest. He had no voice left. He ordered his ship to turn back to Korath. He would face his own people. Taran Voss was released from the brig. He did not seek command. He asked to be returned to the humans, to learn from them. The Valith sent a single message to Voss. "We have watched empires rise and fall for 2,400 years. We have never seen a victory won without a single death in the final battle. You have redefined the meaning of strength." Voss read the message, then set it aside. She had a different victory to tend to, the small one. On the Shepherd fleet, Captain Vance received the news. He looked at his daughter's photograph. He had not seen her in 9 years. He keyed a personal message, "I'm coming home." Chief Warrant Officer Webb stopped counting his gray hairs. He went to the ship's mess and drank a cup of coffee, the first in years that tasted like something. Ensign Patel received a reply from his father. "I heard. I'm proud of you." The chronometer kept ticking. Voss sat alone in the war room. The coffee machine was still broken. The display was dark. She pressed her thumb to the cracked crystal one last time. "Grandmother," she said quietly, "I hope you would have understood." The second hand moved. She did not check the list of names. She would later. She would write each letter by hand to every family of the 3,100 who had sacrificed themselves on those 31 ships. She would tell them what their loved ones had done. She would tell them the truth, but not now. Now she set the chronometer on the console, face up, where the light could catch the crack in the crystal. The second hand moved. The watch had been counting for 140 years. It was still counting. She walked to the window, the small, reinforced viewport that looked out at Jupiter's mass shadow. The stars were faint, distant. Somewhere out there, the Shepherd fleet held position. The Karathi were retreating. The council was rebuilding. And the chronometer ticked. Voss placed her hand on the glass. She did not think about victory. She thought about patience, the kind that built a fleet in secret, that watched and waited and planned. She thought about the sacrifice of those 31 ships. The crews who had known they were bait and had gone anyway. She thought about the families who would never know the full story. but they would know the truth. That was what she had built, not a weapon, but a record. A story that would outlast every empire. She turned away from the window. The chronometer was still on the console. She picked it up and held it to her ear. The ticking was steady, unhurried, eternal. Some things, she said, are meant to keep counting. She pocketed the watch and walked out of the war room. The lights dimmed behind her. The silence that followed was not empty. It was the sound of a galaxy learning to listen.